Hey guys, my name is Micah Senga. This here is
MIIOGS.
Yeah, and we're here. We're gonna do the MIIOGS Podcast. That's what we're starting. And at MIIOGS, like, we're basically what we're about. We believe that we're made in the image of the greatest storyteller, and so everything that we want to do. When we engage culture in this podcast, we're really just like engaging with culture, but we want to do everything within the context of the complete story of God's word, of the complete story of the Bible. So yeah, that's what we're about. That's what we're gonna be doing, and we're gonna go ahead and dive in.
Yes.
Yeah. What we're gonna do in the first couple of episodes is basically like talk about what is the story of the Bible, because like, as we go forward, we'll have a lot of different topics that we'll be tackling. And we wouldn't have the time in each episode, obviously, to go through the whole story of the Bible.
Yeah.
But we can do that in just the first couple of episodes, concentrate really on that story. And then from there on, we can just reference back to this beginning, that how we're kind of starting us off. So, yeah, Emmanuel, you want to start us off?
Yes. So, I mean, I guess we can start with the beginning of the Bible, Genesis 1:1.
Yeah.
In the beginning.
If you have your Bibles, turn up to Genesis 1:1.
Yes, real quick here. Let me just turn to that and quote. So, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Verse 1. Already we see the image of God being a creator, a storyteller already. At the beginning of his story as we know it from the Bible.
When you're looking at stories in general, introductions are super important, because you're getting an introduction to who your protagonists are, who are your main characters, what world is this set in, and so that is it's really, really important to like know what kind of a world you're dealing with, what kind of characters you are. And God is an amazing storyteller. Like, the way that he introduces this makes it clear who is our protagonist and what world are we in. We are often reading the Bible, if we're being honest with ourselves, right? Most of the time we read the Bible as though like the protagonist of this part of the story is Moses. So right now Moses is the protagonist in this part of the story. Or right now it's David, like King David, or maybe it's Joshua or something, just running around each story. It's about this guy. But the Bible it's pretty clearly introducing God as the protagonist. He's the one consistent character throughout the entire story. And when you read it with the context of the mortal man who comes and goes as the protagonist, you're gonna miss the completeness of the story, and that affects a lot how we like read the Bible. So yeah, he's the protagonist.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would just re-highlight that like we see the Bible, like how you said we relate to individual people, but like when we think of the Bible as a story and change our perspective a little bit, we see the character of God much better, because we see him as like the person moving the chess pieces, the person that's above it all, the one that's guiding everything with his hand and everything. So that's awesome. And as we go throughout this first chapter, we're not going to read like every single verse, but as we go throughout this first chapter, you see him verse after verse creating each thing and calling it good. So here we're establishing the world that the story takes place in, and as he creates each, like he creates the plants, he creates the stars, he creates the animals, the light, everything that he's creating, at each step he's like, it is good, it is good, it is good, which tells us we live in a good world that was created by a powerful God. Yeah. He created these things from nothing with his word. Yeah. This is he's a very powerful God, and he creates good things. He creates
good art. He's an artistic guy.
Yes,
you know.
Yes.
It's so cool.
That's crazy. It's crazy. Especially as like, as people who appreciate art, you know, we definitely like art. It's cool to see a God who is a creator himself, you know, and like see that he's creating something and he himself has an opinion on whether it's good or not. And that's like something that we can all relate to as people who create and things like that. We look at the things we do and the things we make and we give our opinions and critique it on if it's good or not. And we just see how God, like you said, he's creating things and he's calling it good. And so the world we live in is very good. From that.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I think it was yesterday, I was driving and I was thinking a little bit just on why it is that we get so much into stories, like why it is that God has burdened me with like the desire to explore stories and tell stories. That's what I want to do. I want to be a filmmaker that just, you know, tells stories, brings stories to the world. But why is it that like I love stories so much, and why do mankind in general love stories so much? Like when you're listening to a message, you know, like if you're in church and a pastor's preaching, you got a church full of people. Some people are fully engaged. They're just like listening to every word he's saying. Some people are like, they're asleep, you know, they're out. But as soon as a pastor starts telling a story, their ears go in, and they start listening. And as I was like listening to professional storytellers, quote unquote professional storytellers, they were talking a lot about how our brains engage in stories because we put ourselves in there. Like we begin to interact and actually enter into the world that's being discussed. Which is insane because it's the objective of each storyteller and artist, you know, whether you're telling your story through a film or through song, through dance even, you're telling, you know, you're telling story, whatever you're doing, it's your desire as a storyteller to have your audience enter into your world. Now we have a God who created a story that we literally are in his world right now.
Wow.
And when you understand that everything that we're doing is within the context of that story, and you begin to understand how to better interact with the story, you know, because you know, okay, I'm doing these, this is the way that I'm living my life. I'm looking a lot more like the antagonist than the protagonist. You know, if I do these kinds of things in line with the way that the protagonist has set things up in the direction he's trying to get me to go into, successful, you know, I'll start seeing, I'll be on the good side, basically. You know what I mean? So we have to be conscious of the fact that we're in that story. And it's just insane that he's actually created a story that we're literally... Like, we don't have to just imagine ourselves. We're in it.
Literally,
you know?
Yes. We're literally living in a story right now. Our days are like, we're in a story. It's so crazy. And we're seeing the origin of that story through the Bible. And it's crazy to see.
So, like, the next big section, after we see the world being created and everything is brought into being, he forms Adam of the earth. He forms mankind of the earth, which is an interesting difference from like the rest of creation, because he kind of just spoke it into being from nothing. But Adam, he took two things. He took the earth, which he created, and he formed it, and then he breathed. So he didn't create man from nothing. He took two things and put it together, himself and the earth. And Adam's literal definition of Adam is like, of the red earth, basically. But it really refers to mankind. It's not just that one specific guy. And so like Genesis 2 and 3, it's not the story of Adam and Eve. It's still all the story of God. You know, we want to look at everything as it being the story of God. And we see Adam come in as the supporting character. And he kind of represents like every other person to come. You know? Like, dude, have you seen Hamilton yet?
Not yet.
Bro, you gotta see Hamilton, man.
I know.
I've been telling this guy to watch Hamilton. It's a really good musical. But in the musical, the writer, Lin-Manuel Miranda, he's really smart. And he kind of has certain characters, like, represent like these specific people represent an actual character. For example, like in the beginning of the film, there's this one character whose name is John Lawrence, and it's his best friend. The actor that plays as John Lawrence, later in the last half of the play, plays his son, who he becomes really close to. Both of these characters are really close to Hamilton, and deeply affect him because they die, and their deaths deeply affect like his progression as a person.
Wow.
So you have this one actor playing the same one, making it clear in our minds that these characters are really closely linked.
Yeah.
In the same way, Adam kind of plays like this link. And we actually see Paul make this allegory later, but all of mankind and all of these people that God kind of raises up to like attempt to use to restore humanity are like these atoms. Like they're like the next atom, and like this name Adam can kind of apply to every single one of us, because we're all, we're made of the earth, formed of the earth by God.
Yeah, definitely. So we've set the stage there with that.
Yeah.
So we are Adam's, and Adam's the first man here. So we're setting the stage for the meaning of life. Honestly, it's so much, so deep, but like, okay, cool. Okay, please continue.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah, so I mean, like the next thing that we really see is the fall, and this would be like the inciting incident, we call it in film, and I don't know if you want to like go in a little bit to like what happens with the fall.
Yeah, so Adam, you have Adam who gets a partner. Eve, because it's not good for man to be alone.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Relationships. No, JK. No, but so we have Adam, or okay, I should say it starts with Eve, who, of course, just for context, for the sake of context, there are trees in the Garden of Eden that they are allowed to eat from, and other trees that they're not allowed to eat from.
Right.
And
the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Exactly. Yeah. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And so we have Eve, who is tempted by the serpent, which is the devil. And he tempts her and tells her that if she eats from the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, she'll be like God. And she said that says that she'll die if she eats from it. But then Satan, we see Satan, he deceives her, and he tells her that she won't die. She will live, in fact. That what God said was a lie. And I think that's something that needs to be, like, it can definitely be taken out of context, because she did not die physically. Right. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. She didn't die physically, but there was a death in that. And so she takes from the fruit of the tree, from the knowledge of good and evil, and eats it, and sees that nothing happens, and she offers it to Adam, and he eats it too, and they realize that they're naked. Their eyes are opened, and they realize that they're naked, and they hide. They went from one reality and switched to a completely different reality after eating the fruit. Yeah. And it's crazy because they didn't know that they were naked until after they ate the fruit. Yeah. And it goes to say a lot, but do you want to interject real quick?
Yeah, I mean, like, just to say, like, and obviously when we start talking more specifically on, like, topics and culture, we'll be able to, like, go into a lot of these things in a little bit more depth. Right now we're just being general, but the devil's tactics don't change. The devil's tactics, like, I just want to shed light, because I know the devil doesn't want me to shed light on the tactics, but if we want to live lives of godliness, we need to know how he's attacking. Yeah. And it doesn't change. Like, he comes to Eve here and tells her truth that's twisted. And that's all he ever really does. He takes what actually is there, what actually is true about the world God's created, about us who he created. Yeah. And he will even say things about God and twist them to make it just a little different. Yeah. He tells Eve, it's not that you're going to die. God is just trying to, like, protect himself. Yeah. Because basically, if you eat this fruit, you're going to be like God in knowing good and evil. And it's like, whoa, Eve. hold up, remember how you were created. You know, remember what God has already done for you. That's a huge thing.
Right.
You were created already in the image of God. Boom. Don't let the devil try to come and tell you if you eat of the fruit you're gonna be like God. It's like, no, man. I don't need to disobey God to be like God. God created me like him already in his image.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
And what he says is good for me is enough. I don't need to take autonomy on my own and like decide for myself what's good and evil because I'm made in his image. So what he says is good and evil is all I need.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
Definitely.
And the devil just hasn't changed, and neither have we. Sadly, like we're always trying to choose for ourselves.
Yeah.
What we believe is right and what we believe is wrong, and it's just caused a big divide between us and God.
That's definitely so many good points in what you just said. And honestly, the thing about truth really needs to be highlighted. Like you said, like the devil came and he twisted the truth for Eve, and she ran with it. And the tactics haven't changed till now. You know, we go off of our feelings and we change what the truth is. You know, we listen to the voices that we hear in culture and things, and we twist what the truth is for us, for ourselves. And one thing that I just saw that I would like to point out is just that the enemy came for her identity first. And that's so important in the world we live in today. Is he lied to her about who she was. Yeah. And she believed the enemy's lie. And we live in a time where there's so much like identity crisis. There's so much like what you believe about yourself is so important. And the enemy, if he can just twist that one thing about who you are, everything else after that will just be changed. Yeah, definitely. Totally. Yeah. And so we see that in culture. Now we see that happening way back then in the Bible, you know, when Eve did this original sin. And it's crazy to see that the enemy's tactics haven't changed, and here we are still struggling with the same things that we were struggling with before.
He's been making people fall since the beginning of mankind. He's been making mankind fall. But as we continue to go in the story, we're gonna know who has been who's been crushing him under his feet since then. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we have even a greater force on our side than a force that's against us. But basically, as we continue, the world continues to grow in just this rebellion against God and this desire, essentially, to ascend to godhood. Like, that was kind of what the temptation was. It was to seize autonomy in making your own decisions as to what is right and what is wrong. But what did Satan say? You would be like God and knowing good and evil. And she wanted there's this temptation to be God, basically, right? So that continues when you read the account of the Tower of Babel. Like, that's what men are trying to do, to build this tower to reach heaven, to ascend to godhood, essentially. Evil continues to grow, and it gets to the point where God is just absolutely fed up with the evil on earth, you know, and we're introduced to the one righteous dude left on the planet. Wow. I mean, when there's only one of them left, you know it's bad. Yeah. You know? Yeah. It's just Noah. Yeah. Just Noah. And Noah becomes like this new Adam. This new attempt for humanity to essentially be restored to the position it was created to be. God destroys everything, dude. Which, it speaks to two things. Not a lot. I feel like a lot of times we, especially in recent years, we can see just the wrath of God in that. And God is a God of justice. He's a God that punishes sin. There's no doubt. Like Noah, the story of the flood is a very good example of that. But he's also a God who is abounding in mercy and steadfast love. And you're going to hear that language in the Old Testament all the time. Don't tell me that the God of the Old Testament is different from the one of the New Testament. Come on. Because the Old Testament is full of that language. And he saves humanity through Noah.
Yeah, we really do sometimes see it as like a, wow, God, why would you like destroy the whole earth type thing? But and like what I see about it, and I like about it so much, is that it's really a thing of love, for real, because humanity is really just headed in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
All of humanity, like there's no hope for us in this moment, and God wants to save us so bad that he chooses the one man who is fit for the job,
right,
to save the entire human race.
Yeah, he gives us a new slate.
Yes, literally, he completely wipes the board clean, and we start fresh with Noah. And it's it's love more than it is like wrath. It's wrath, but the wrath of a father,
Yeah.
And
yeah. I mean, it's a tough one, because there's no question about the anger of God against sin. But at the same time, the fact that he is literally, and this is something to understand, like every story kind of has this central theme. And when you look at the central theme of the Bible, we're going to begin to see throughout, as we continue to break down the story, that it's all about redemption. It's just another attempt at redemption. Anyway, the next thing that we see after a couple generations later, we see Abraham. And Abraham is the next Adam character, the next guy that's filling this supporting character role in the story. And Abraham is a very interesting case. One of the things that always blows my mind about Abraham is this dude. When I can be sure that this guy is at least worshiping, maybe not in the same way, maybe not having all the same doctrine, but at least worshiping the same God as mine, I say, is that the God of Abraham? Like, that's how people have been referring to him since Abraham's time.
Yeah.
That's how, not just people, because it's one thing when people do, but God himself introduces himself to each of Abraham's children that way. He introduces himself to Moses that way. He introduces himself time and time again as the God of a man, a mortal man, who was not perfect. But it's this guy right here, Abraham, who had incredible faith and just took the word of God. That's all he needed for direction.
Literally, it's so crazy. It's so crazy that God, the creator of the entire universe, is calling himself your God and introducing himself to other people as that. Like, that's wild. That's wild.
Like in some circles, you have influence when you're like, yeah, I'm this dude's friend, or yeah, I'm this dude's dad, I'm this dude's brother, I'm this, like you're like making the connection through this guy, because they don't know you yet, but they do know this guy. And this is how you're making that introduction, that connection, and that's like, whoa, Abraham's a big deal. But Abraham's lineage, essentially, we're all, just in the same way that we're all children of Noah, we're all children of Abraham. We're all biologically linked to Noah, but we're all, through the faith that we share, those who believe in the one true God, are linked to the faith of Abraham. And that is why God calls himself the God of Abraham. So Abraham has Isaac, then he has Jacob. And Jacob is another interesting Adam character, because it is that man that his name is changed to Israel. And Israel is the people of God, dude.
Wow,
Israel is how kind of we carry on the rest of the story throughout the rest of this, throughout the rest of the story. But Israel comes from, I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with the passage, but it comes from that moment when Jacob was wrestling with God.
Yes.
And he just if someone were to make an action film of this, I would be very interested to see how this scene plays out, because this dude isn't just throwing a couple punches or they go for a little. No, they went all night. Dude.
Yeah, yeah. Imagine, like, what?
Yeah, I mean, like, how do you fight someone all night?
Right,
like
all night.
All
like
night
you're
long.
wrestling one person all night. You don't even know the person's name. Like,
Yeah.
what?
I
Like,
know.
that's
It's crazy.
Yeah.
They're going all night. Dude gets his hip dislocated, and then just holds on.
Yeah.
He's like he's he can't do anything except hold on at this point, and he won't let go until he gets his blessing. But that is kind of a symbolic picture of the story and the journey of Israel. Israel becomes a people that wrestles with God so much.
Wow, yeah.
And it's really like the picture of humanity. Like, we wrestle with God a lot.
Yeah.
And we, like, there will be a day, and I am looking forward to this day with everything in me. And I believe that those who, dedicate themselves to this beautiful story and to the God of the Bible are also looking forward to it, when we won't wrestle with God anymore. When we're all the divide, when God's story will actually have finally reached its resolution.
Yeah.
And the restoration is complete between us and him. And that struggle ends. But until then, we got to understand how this struggle works, so that we can get closer to that.
Yeah.
In our lives. Israel is kind of the next section of the story, and in that section, we're gonna probably talk more in the next episode. But in that section, we just are going to see a whole lot of adventure.
Yes. Action.
I mean, it's insane. The story of Israel is insane.
It's quite crazy, and it's long too.
It is long.
It is long.
It is long. Yeah. As you can see, we're going through these things really, really quickly, taking out some truths, and just trying to lay down the foundation so that when we start talking on topics, you know what to reference. You get the full story of the Bible. Yeah. If we read the Bible as a collection of short stories, we're reading a different book. Like, it becomes something entirely different. Like, it wasn't meant that way, and it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
But as you see it as one complete story that is written in a masterful way, you see that, David may have significantly contributed to writing the Psalms. Paul may have significantly contributed to writing a lot of the Old Testament. Moses may have written most of the Pentateuch, but there is no way that these men, who never had a chance to meet because they are so distant when it comes to generations and difference, there's no way that these men wrote this fully unified story that makes perfect sense, that even one man right now can't think up a story like this. I'm telling you.
Yeah, no way.
There's no way. Like, this story is incredibly genius.
Yeah. And
there's no way that, like, hundreds of men throughout this much time were able to form something like this without having, like, even Wi-Fi to just trade ideas, bounce ideas.
Literally, imagine.
This was the Holy Spirit.
Right. They didn't get on Zoom or anything like that. Get a Google Doc together to put that is crazy. It's crazy.
So, I mean, like, as we go into the genius of the story, I hope that you guys can see just how unified of a story it is, just how much we are involved in it right now, and how to read. Like, it'll change the way that you read the Bible each morning, because that's how it's meant to be read. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in. If you guys are excited for the next episode, please check it out. The story of Israel is going to be really, really interesting.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
Peace out.
Peace out.